This is the training video for the TCO tab within Compass Sherpa. To access your TCO tab, first navigate to your Accounts window, search for an account you wish to add TCO equipment to, and access your TCO tab of that account. The TCO tab is considered your total cost of ownership for equipment that the customer has out in their current environment. It's going to become a very powerful tool for you as users, allowing you to take a snapshot of your account's current copying and/or printing environment and assess their current expenditures. As a user, you can use this tool to determine over or underutilization of equipment, poor workflow, and use all this data to prepare a solution that's custom tailored to the account's needs. The more information you're entering into the TCO area, the more valuable it becomes to you. Not only will you have a current equipment inventory for that account, which can include competitive equipment information, but you can also use this information to track lease expirations and run a comprehensive analytical report. There are a few ways you can add equipment into your customer's TCO model list. You can choose the Add button, which allows you to manually add a device, filling in the form, or choosing from Compass's device list of over 9,700 devices, providing industry average for you. You can import using a CSV exported file from your DCA provider. You're going to be able to import using your eAutomate and using a direct connect to import equipment into the TCO area. Let's first begin by adding a piece of equipment manually. You click the Add button. A window or form will appear. You're going to enter the information or begin typing in the information that you want to view. You're going to notice the form will begin to populate. You can delete or backspace on that and enter or finish entering your information. You're going to notice it also auto-populates some information based on that model list. It populates an equipment type. You can then choose an equipment vendor. So this could be your competitive vendor within your area that this machine is out to for that customer. You can enter a location and even a department. The purchase date will be the introduction date of this model into the market, and then enter an end of lease date if that's applicable and they've provided that information for you. You're going to notice that with these checkboxes, it automatically defaults to own. If you do enter an end of lease date and tab out of that cell, let's go back here. We'll choose an end of lease date for us. It will default to lease at that point, recognizing that you have a lease end date information entered there. And based on this end of lease date entered for this device, you're also able to track end of lease information. You can also receive a lease expiration activity based on the number of days your admin has set in the control panel, letting you know this lease is about to expire. You could then enter a lease payment, lease vendor, equipment ID, serial number, IP address, and based on the auto-populated information and being it's selected from the model list, it automatically enters the speed as well as segment of the device and calculates the device age based on the purchase date for the customer. You do have the option to mark this also as a competitive piece of equipment with this checkbox, and again be able to track that it's a competitive piece of equipment and go a step further, determining who the competitive vendor is based on the equipment vendor you've entered from the drop-down selection. You're going to be able to transfer this to Printer Pricer. So if you want to work this up within a MPS service contract in the Printer Pricer proposal area, You can include it with a new proposal as well as remove it from the TCO analysis. That way you can still have the piece of equipment in the TCO area, but have it reflect or have it not reflect on your TCO analysis report. Enter any notes for this particular device. Add your customer's toner coverage percentage. You do have the default that it was set at, but you can certainly manually enter these fields if you wanted to edit those based on the defaults your admin has set. Any field like this that's grayed out is not editable. You will have the option, if it is a color machine, to enter color volume, cartridge costs, and yields. This is a black and white printer, so I'm going to go ahead and enter a volume that they're running on the device. It will populate asking if you want to calculate labor and parts on this device. If they own it, maybe you do want to provide what it would cost for you to maintain the equipment over a period of time, and it will calculate over a year's period of what it would cost you to service this device and maintain this device for them. If it's lease, I'll probably select no in the fact that that service contract is probably worked up within the lease agreement. You'll then notice there's the cartridge costs as well as the yield for the device. You can enter drum costs and its yield as well as a click charge for that particular device. Follow the same process for the color options. Over to the right, you have the cost of ownership data. This will again auto-populate information based on what's entered in the model list by Compass Sherpa. It's going to ask if you would like to calculate labor and parts again for this model since we were in that color section. I'm going to go ahead and hit no. It will auto-calculate a lease payment for you based on equipment cost and future capital lease months and calculate that lease payment if nothing was entered in your lease payment area. If you had selected yes for labor and parts, the labor and parts dollar amount would be here on that device. You're going to be able to enter a previous and current meter read information for the device if the customer had provided it, and add additional cost. To add additional cost, select the checkbox. This is a good spot as well for you to add overages. So if they say they're running overages of maybe 250 and a rate of 0.015, you have the option to track that information. I want to view all information for equipment with overages running at 250 or above. So again, entering those overages amounts in this area for mono and color will allow you to track that information. You can enter any additional costs such as fuser kits, transfer kits, maintenance kits, and up to 5 additional costs as well. Then you have your drum information. Once you're done adding the device, you can click Add, or you can clear form and start all over. Click the Add button to add the device. The form will remain available for you to continue adding devices as needed. Again, you can choose from a list of TCO devices that Compass provides you, or manually type in the device you want to add. You can also account for outsourcing of a device. So if they're outsourcing colored copies, say to Kinko's, you can enter Kinko's as your make and model. Your equipment type would then be outsourcing. So we have requested that as a admin, they keep this feature in equipment type for you so you can then account for outsourcing of volume or equipment. You then can enter the volume they're outsourcing in color copies. I'm not going to calculate labor and parts because there's no lease or owned. They're just outsourcing that information. And then what click rate are they paying for that outsourcing per volume they're running. At this time, I can then click Add and close out, and I can see I have my device I've added as well as the outsourcing amount they are running. If I had a CSV export file from my DCA provider, I can now take and import that. I would go down to Import Meter Reads, choose my DCA provider such as FM Audit, PrintFleet, Print Tracker, and then browse to the file location. Once the CSV file loads, you're going to see the list of equipment needing to be added to Compass into the TCO area. You can individually select models by holding down the Control key and choosing the models you want to have imported into the TCO area if you don't want all models loaded. Or you can choose Select All. Then at that time, once you choose Select All, you can add models to the TCO, or you can even account for business days. So if you have a hospital that's working 7 days a week, you can account for that, and it'll all calculate based on the number of business days you enter here as well. Once I make that selection, I'm going to click Add Selected Models to the TCO. I then have the equipment to currently add to the TCO in this section. It's going to provide me with the total volume I'm importing and then break it out by mono and color. This time I can choose Transfer All Meter Reads to the TCO and hit Close. I now have 26 devices entered in here, so that means I imported 24 from my DCA provider. And again, as a best practice, we always recommend walking through and double checking to make sure that you have information calculating in your total cost of ownership area, as well as the total cost of equipment being added into the TCO. So this is your individual costs, and this is your total TCO costs for all devices loaded in the TCO. You just want to scroll through, again, making sure that you have all the information calculating that you need to calculate. If you happen to come across a device that has not been calculated after importing the information, you have a couple different options. It could be that it's not matching up. The name or make and model of the device is not matching against our TCO model list, because it does try to take that make and model and match it against our model list to give the best option for you when you import. It could be that there's no click charge being calculated or added into this area, so it needs something to calculate off of based on the volume as well as cartridge information. So it could be a matter of just entering that information in. If it does happen to be the make and model name, you do have this Filter New Model option. This Filter New Model is going to allow you to filter on the TCO model list that Compass provides for you. Search again by model keyword. You can then enter the keyword that you want to select from, and it populates open that device list of over 9,700 devices. You can then scroll through here, and maybe it was this Kyocera Task Alpha. So I'm going to select that option, and then it's going to say, do you want to add this new model to your TCO, and it will be overwritten by that current information you had imported. I'm going to select yes, and at this time I'm going to hit Calculate Model, so it calculates the devices based on additional costs entered, volume being ran, the meter reads that were entered, and any of the additional mono and color options that it has available. Once I have everything calculated, I know I'm good to go. I can hit Reset Filter, so I'm back at the beginning. Within the form area, after you've imported, you're going to notice the areas are open to you for editing. Again, you notice that the equipment cost divided by the future capital lease months that are entered here comes up with an estimated lease payment or future capital expense, since I have no end of lease information entered on this device. You can edit this information. So maybe you happen to know a lease payment. You can add that over here. So even though you've imported, it doesn't mean you can't edit the information being imported or that you've added in here. So maybe you know they're running a click rate of 0.0115. You can add that information in. You can enter cartridge costs in here as well, and then yield information, and then recalculate model. So anytime you make changes to fields within the model itself, just make sure to calculate model, and even take it a step further, calculate cost of ownership, and it'll recalculate everything based on the new figures you've entered. You're going to notice though that I don't have those additional cost fields that I had when I was adding the model, but I do know it's calculating over here within this information. Here is the additional cost option up here in your toolbar selections. If you click on the additional costs, it's going to pull up those fields for the model you're currently on within the system. Again, you can enter those overage volumes, a good spot to enter that information, as well as overages and rates being ran. Fuser kits, additional magenta and drum costs, and hit close. And then again, recalculate model, and that information will be added for you. You do have the arrow keys, to scroll through each device. You can scroll to the end or to the beginning using the end arrow keys. You do have the option to copy a device. So if you know they had 2 of the HP LaserJet 1000s out to them, instead of filtering for a new model or instead of searching or adding for a new model, you can hit the copy button, and it takes an exact copy of that model you chose to copy and enter it into that information or into your TCO. And now I can see I have 27 devices. You can then edit the information as needed. So maybe this one's in their training department. They didn't purchase this one till 2003, or they purchased this one in 2003. Or sorry, end of lease information is 2013. Let's go back a bit here. And then tab out, and again that device age and everything gets updated. I can recalculate model and cost of ownership based on any of the information I'm entering. I also have the option to delete a model. Maybe I added a model that I didn't necessarily need in there, or I have a model where the lease is expired, or I've done an upgrade. So I need to delete a model out of my TCO. I can delete. It's going to ask for confirmation. Just select yes. And you do have the option to delete all. And again, it's going to ask you to confirm that you want to delete all models. If you delete all models, again, you have the option to import using that DCA or re-import using eAutomate. You're going to be able to edit coverage, toner fill page percentages for all fleet of devices entered in the TCO tab for this account. Again, it's set to the default, but you can certainly make changes directly here and copy for all equipment on this account. Again, then it will go back and make changes to the mono and color fill page percentages. So you do have that mono and color tab for each device to enter that volume and click rates for both mono and color, and cartridge costs being applied to this particular machine you're on. You can also remove equipment costs and expense for this model or all models. You can also estimate labor and parts for this model, all models, or remove all labor and parts for devices listed in the TCO. You have access to the model list if you are an admin. If you're an admin, again, this model list is that TCO list of devices, over 9,700 devices, that Compass provides for you with industry averages. You can type directly in the grid to make edits as needed with any of these columns that you find within this grid. Once you're done, you can click Update, or you can even add a new device to this model list. So if you have an MFP, a printer, a copier that you need to add to this list, you can enter all of that information within the form, even copy from an existing model to get you started, and hit Submit. You can clear all costs within your entire fleet and get all costs back. The clear all costs will clear all fields in the entire fleet of devices, but again, you can get those costs back. You can update device ages, And you have the option to view your entire equipment list of 26 devices within a grid view. So you have your grid view option. Again, you can take and type in here or double click to access that model. If you type in here, you'll be able to directly enter information into the grid, add a lease payment as applicable, anything you want to enter within this field option here. Now it does automatically save the information you're directly entering in here, so you could hit the exit button, or if you're a person that likes to know that it's saving, go ahead and hit the save icon and it's going to save the information and click exit. But please know that it does automatically save the information you enter into the TCO area. You have the Excel option. With the Excel icon, this is where if you have bookmarked templates that you want to populate information from the TCO with, this is the area you would do it, and it would be an Excel form. You can pull from your document storage if you have that applicable, or if you choose no and you have that option, you're going to be able to browse to a file or location or destination, pull up your templates where you have them located, grab the templates, and be able to do a TCO cost analysis or even a lease end report. So if I were to run the TCO cost analysis, it then will populate it into an Excel form. Again, I can save it directly back to document storage or the documents tab of the account, or to a destination of my choice. Once it's populated, it pulls down below in your taskbar where you can then make any edits to the template if it's not locked down with your logo, any of your colors, and then again it populates the information being brought in or over from the TCO, such as location, department, volume, click rates or charges of the cartridge costs, as well as the make of the device and the category of the device. You have the option to import and export the TCO to make any changes, add new devices, and import it back in. Down here in the bottom, here's the import-export. Again, if I export my current TCO, I'm going to be able to have it in an Excel format. Again, it populates in my taskbar where I can make changes directly to any of the items in the grid as long as I leave column A blank, or sorry, alone, or as is. These are system-generated IDs that Compass Sherpa generates to recognize you're making changes on existing equipment already in the TCO. If you want to add new to this list, begin entering the information that you want. Go across the grid, enter information in the columns, leave column A blank, and Sherpa will know you're adding new. So again, you can make adjustments, you can copy and paste information over, you can drag and drop, and then make sure you're saving the file to a destination. So if I save this to my desktop and close out of it, I can then come in here to the import, choose the import TCO, open file, browse to the file location, open it up, and it'll populate the information within this window. You then have the option to check individual devices that you just made edits to, as well as maybe any new device that you want to add, or check all, uncheck all, then choose to import. It's going to confirm your import. As you go through, you're going to be able to see those changes being made to those devices, as well as now I have 27 devices added, so it also added my new device, pulling from the TCO model list the industry averages, such as the equipment type. It left my location and department, the purchase date or when it was introduced, device age. So again, it does some pre-populating based on information it's trying to find within our TCO model list for you. You also probably noticed you could do a blank spreadsheet export, where it will provide you with a blank Excel file with all the column headers you will need to copy and paste from maybe a CSV file or a customer file that they had with all their equipment information. This way it ensures you're getting the import information in a Compass formatted import to bulk import information as well. Again, just leave column A blank, save the template, and import it into your TCO. You have your reports. You have a meter report, equipment report, TCO summary, and TCO details report. If I choose my meter report, I can choose to bring in additional branches as well. So if I have parent-child relationships set up, I'm going to be able to, if I'm on the parent account, choose to be able to bring in all my child location or branches as a mixed or sorted file as I print this report. I don't have any additional branches, but then I can choose to leave it at default sorting or choose up to 3 sort criterias of my choice based on department, location, make and model, serial number, and then ascend and descend on the file or report. I'm going to leave it at the default sorting and hit submit. As I hit submit, I'm going to get that meter report where it's going to give me the meter details of each device within the system. And then I can scroll through each report. So I have my date meter, color meter, days metered, the average volume. Then at the end I have the grand total of the mono volume as well as color volume in my TCO. I then have my equipment report. Again, same report choices. I could then hit submit, where it's going to break down the equipment by category. Within the report, it's going to give you the company information, the type of category the equipment falls under, the make and model, location, if it's owned or leased, lease payment, equipment ID, any notes that you've entered, and again I can scroll through this to view those equipment details. I have my TCO summary report. This is just going to give me a summary of devices entered in the TCO. It's going to break it down volume by equipment type in a pie graph for you and cost by equipment type in a pie graph, as well as break it down into the percentages and costs of each category type you have entered in the TCO. Again, I can scroll through each one, see that it breaks it down by category. I can see totals within each category broken down as well. And then at the very end of the report, I have my pie graph of the volume, black and white, color, as well as the average age of device broken down by category as well. And then grand totals here for me to view what my average device age is, the mono CPP, color CPP, and then grand total of all costs sitting in the TCO. And then I have TCO details. My TCO details report is going to provide me a page-by-page detail report of each device in the TCO tab. It breaks it down by the location, information of the device such as serial number, IP address, equipment, device age, and then calculates the mono, color, additional costs, as well as additional operating costs of the device, and then my grand totals here at the bottom. So again, this is a report that's great to have handy. May not want to provide all 27 pages to a customer, but again, if they say, hey, how did you come up with the numbers you did? This will allow you to present a few pages to them to reflect how those numbers are being calculated and where those numbers came from that you've entered. So again, it's a page-by-page breakdown. The last feature I want to highlight for you is you can import devices using your eAutomate area. Transferring equipment from eAutomate is meant to be a manual process because it does allow you as a customer, as I search for an account here, to import items you want to view in your TCO tab. If we did a nightly data dump from eAutomate, it would not or could possibly bog down your TCO tab with equipment you don't need, information you don't need, inactive equipment. So keep that in mind. Once you're on the account, you want to transfer equipment to Sherpa. It's going to confirm that you want to transfer it, but you also want to make sure that the account you're transferring from and into to Sherpa are the same. Once you do that, you can individually check the devices or check all, and then transfer checked equipment into the TCO and choose Done. You do have an update equipment as well, so after you transfer equipment a couple weeks down the road or a month later, you want to make sure you're maintaining what's been imported from the eAutomate database. If something has changed in eAutomate, again, it won't automatically update it in the TCO. So you're going to want to maintain this TCO list for your equipment and choose to update the equipment you've brought in from eAutomate. It'll pull up the equipment you've transferred in, so it's equipment that is currently in Sherpa from eAutomate. Choose Update Equipment, and then you can update meters only, or you can delete and re-import the equipment into the TCO and click Continue. It'll confirm meters have been updated, and then you can close out. Thank you for joining me on the TCO training video for Compass Sherpa. If you have further questions or need assistance, please contact training@compasscontact.net.